This is training module number 7, which deals with communication theory. The concepts in this training module are very simple. It would be communication 101. We're trying to understand just the basics so we can begin to work through some of the more complex things that we'll face later on. Communication consists of transferring information from one person to another. Laswell's maxim says it's who says what, in which channel, to whom, and to what effect. Now, one of the best communication models I've ever seen is Shannon Weaver's model. It starts with a sender to an encoder through the channel, which works through the noise section, a decoder, and a receiver. Now, let me identify and define these for you because you will need to do this for your staff as you're teaching this particular module. The sender is the person initiating the communication. Now, often that communication begins nonverbal, so we have to be aware it's not just spoken. The encoder is the message, is then coded in language that's familiar to the sender. If you only understand Spanish and I send you a message in English, it's not been encoded properly. The channel is the conduit. Is it verbal? Is it nonverbal? Is it written? Is it electronic? Whatever that conduit is that we choose to send the communication. The noise section includes physical noise, distractions, semantic noise, anything that gets in the way of understanding is noise. And often noise is one of the factors we have to minimize if we're going to get good communication to take place. The decoder is the message being interpreted by the receiver. The person hearing my message has to take my words and decode them, because we really don't speak in messages, we speak in code. And so the decoder has to happen, and then the receiver is the person receiving the message from the sender. Now, what further complicates this is that communication is seldom linear. So the feedback pattern keeps the message active, and we keep looping back through. And this process goes on, and it becomes so easy to us that we don't even take time to break it down and understand the component parts to it. Additions to complicating the communication are these things: message content. The actual words or symbols, known as language, are put together in grammatical and semantical sense. We all use and interpret the meanings of words differently. So even simple messages can be misunderstood. If I say the word fast, the word fast has many definitions. It could mean fast as in the car is fast, or it could mean fast, I haven't eaten for a while. So it's very, very interesting that we have to be careful of the content. The context, the message context complicates the communication. The way it's delivered is known as paralanguage. The eyes, the tone of voice, the look, the way my hand gestures go, state of emotion, that all goes into the context of this message. And then finally, the most complicating factor is the nonverbal. The eye contact, the facial expressions, the gestures, the body orientation, posture, the vocal elements. As you're doing your training with your staff, this is a chance for you to break down what are the most complicating things we find, and when do we find them when we're talking with clients? What keeps coming back as patterns that we know are going to be there, and so we can prepare for them so we can minimize and make sure our communication is happening better. Now, there's a couple of essentials for overcoming barriers, and I've just broken them down into 7. Clarity is using the words the receiver understands. That's very important. Credibility, how the sender is viewed. A client is coming into a case manager thinking about the levels of authority. It's going to be important to build credibility. The content, the actual words that are selected by the sender, the context. What's the shape of the office? What's the setting? How are people sitting? Who's put at ease? Who's not? The continuity, the connecting the message to previous messages. So often that gets messed up because people forget what was previously said or they misconstrue it. The capability. Can they actually understand what's being said? And then the channels, using the correct channels at the correct time to make sure that I'm getting that information to the person the way it needs to be put. 70% of our waking time is spent communicating in some form. And so it's important that we understand these basics. So this is a chance for you to break down the basics of communication and then take a time to observe with your staff, where are the breakdowns being spotted, where do they know those breakdowns are, and what do you need to do as a staff to improve your levels of communication.